Hello everyone, I am Dr. Muhammad Tawab, co-chair of ISPRM Communication Committee, and continuing with our disaster rehabilitation series, today we have with us Dr. Colleen O'Connell. So welcome Dr. Colleen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you for having
Thank you
me.
so much for joining us today. So in which disaster situation did you have a chance to provide rehabilitation services?
So, in terms of on site provision of services, I worked quite extensively after the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, where I was working predominantly with Handicap International, which is now called Humanity and Inclusion. I also then worked in capacity and mentoring with a focus on education following the earthquake in Nepal in 2015. And I have been working most recently now in Ukraine, again, working mainly in capacity building around spinal cord injury and working directly with healthcare providers. Virtually, I've had opportunities to work in providing education and coordination for a number of other international emergencies, which included the earthquakes recently in Morocco, and as well in an ongoing relationship with Ukraine.
So during your on-site provision of services, so what were the services that you provided?
One of the important things that I got an opportunity to work on was in doing a rapid assessment to try and identify the severity and estimated numbers of persons who had sustained catastrophic injuries that would likely require longer term rehabilitation needs. And in the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, this really did tend to focus on those who had sustained spinal cord injuries as well as amputations. That type of rapid assessment and estimate would help then form the basis of longer term capacity development as well as needs for resources, both human resources as well as equipment.
And if you don't mind me asking, so how do you go about it? How do you go about the rapid assessment of this?
So, one of the things that was really important was to have good tools that could be recognized and utilized by a wide number of people, and as well that you worked directly with the organizations, the experts, and the national health systems. I can't stress enough how important it is that the leadership and the guidance of the response be really led by the people who are directly affected and who are living in the country and who have that expertise and background. So, in Haiti, for instance, it was working directly with the professionals who'd had the longer term experience in Haiti, who knew the country, who were Haitian, who spoke the language, and being able to partner with them and incorporate them into doing those rapid assessments. So that required having tools that were accepted by multiple organizations and that could then all be deployed in a very logical and efficient manner, and working in partnership with local providers and teaching them how to use the tools and having a central way of collecting that data so that you could get a accurate as possible picture of what those needs and emergency resources were going to be.
Yeah. And in terms of talking about the capacity building, so how do you go about that?
Mhm. This is what I think is one of the most important things, and is actually an area that a lot of international organizations that work in the rehabilitation field have identified as being very important. It's, decades ago when an emergency happened, it was, you know, international players would come in, do their thing, which was often a very short term and not necessarily informed by the lived experience and realities of where you were. And hence, you might be putting in place interventions, therapies, expectations that were not going to be sustainable. And then, when that emergency period ended, which was often short term, there was no one left behind to be able to do the longer term requirements in rehabilitation. And so we recognize that even in disaster and emergency situations, it's so important to work with the local providers, have a good understanding of what the current capacity is, what that health system infrastructure is like, and what is going to be reasonable, accessible, and feasible for the short, immediate, and the longer term. And in fact, if you do it right, that it's not. I'm reticent to say it, but sometimes an emergency situation can be the door opening to building longer term sustainable rehabilitation. And certainly we did see that in Haiti, and I understand that that has been the case as well in some other countries such as Nepal or Pakistan, where having that initial development of expertise, for instance, in spinal cord injury, then led to having a workforce that recognized and had skills in spinal cord injury that were able to continue now longer term, even providing services outside of emergencies.
Very true, very true. So,
Mm.
in your vast experience, what do you think worked really well?
I really feel working well is when you work directly with the local health professionals and within the context of agreements and collaborations with the national health systems. I don't think it works well, and would probably be your next question, is to just fly into a country without that level of collaboration, invitation, and commitment to a longer term relationship. So I think it's being there for the long term and working with the local players.
And what are the lessons that you learned from, from your multiple different
Mm.
experiences?
Being in a developed or first world type of country does not necessarily make you an expert, and there are incredible skills and insights and abilities of persons in every country. And we really need to harness that type of expertise and engage that in any type of an emergency response. And so that's the whole kind of premise around our recommendations now, is that rehabilitation emergency um, be incorporated into the preparation and the planning for any types of emergencies. And that we're trying to really promote the whole concept that rehabilitation is an essential health service, even in emergencies, and needs to be incorporated into the preparation and planning, which then, of course, means it has to be led and run by the locals within their own national and regional health systems.
That was very insightful, Dr. Colleen. Thank you so much for your time and hope to see you soon in Sydney.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for doing this initiative. It's a great thing that ISPRM is doing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Colleen.